Hey, it's Coach Kirk again here, just with another little tip. It would be very easy for a player of softball or baseball to work on at home. Like it doesn't require a lot of equipment. For this one, really just need a ball or ball and glove if they want to kind of. But really, here we're just practicing on grips. If they have the glove, they can practice on finding the grip kind of during a transition from going from glove to throwing hand. But again, currently I've been coaching my daughter's 8 and under softball team, just a rec softball team, so nothing serious. But as I have them kind of doing some throwing drills, and even as I play catch with my own daughters, one thing I've noticed that happens a lot is instead of having that nice kind of backspin on the ball, where if I'm throwing, the equivalent of like a four-seam fastball, which I know I can hold this one with 2 fingers. A lot of times the girls are going to need kind of 3 fingers on that seam. But instead of getting that nice kind of roll off the fingers where they're getting this nice backspin, where again, I can kind of count the seams as they go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can kind of see them all going as the ball goes. A lot of times what happens I've noticed is when the girls are throwing the ball, they instead get a rotation on it that instead of being this nice kind of four seam where it's going to go nice and straight, you can actually see a dot almost. It reminds me of from a baseball player, like throwing a slider where I have my fingers on the opposite seam and I'm actually purposely trying to spin the ball this way to where now you get this kind of sideways rotation like this. So instead of rotating towards the target, it's actually rotating around and then kind of going towards it that way. And again, where maybe with the girls, because again, it's not like they're throwing super hard. They don't have a super high like spin rate on their ball. But it's one of those things where you want to correct it as soon as you can. So, you can establish a good habit kind of early on. So one thing I've been working on with, especially my daughter, but a lot of other kids on the team, is trying to find that right grip and then trying to show them like, kind of what you should kind of be feeling as you release the ball. So yeah, I'm working with, this is a 8U, safety softball, so it's a little squishy. But all the girls so far have been able to hold the ball with this grip where I have them kind of take their standard four-seam grip. I want them to have the 3 fingers where they can feel this seam that's kind of on the horseshoe here. So you can see the horseshoe. I want them to have 3 fingers on that grip. Well, they're not really, their hands aren't quite big enough to necessarily get the pinky underneath the ball with the thumb in front. Kind of the same way, I would hold the baseball with 2 fingers on the seam where I have my 2 fingers underneath, my thumb underneath. But for them, ball's a little big, hands a little smaller. But they can usually kind of have this pinky just kind of drifting off to the side, 3 fingers on top right on the seam, a thumb underneath that's feeling on this seam here. And I've really been trying to get them to focus on when they're throwing this ball to really feel them push off that seam with these 3 fingers that are on top so they get that nice spin coming out this way. Because I have a feeling what happens is a lot of them are just kind of palming the ball like this. And then the other thing that they do when they go, and they're kind of short arming, so they're cutting across this way. And that's how now you're kind of coming across your body. And that's now how you're getting the spin where it's coming off like this. Again, especially the older they get, the more, the stronger they get, the more they're going to be able to put spin on the ball. If you're going to have that slider spin and you're throwing it from, shortstop to first or third to first, it's got some distance to actually start to get some of that slider movement where now you're throwing a ball across the infield that's actually cutting down and across your first baseman as opposed to that nice four seam that's going to go nice and straight. So just a quick tip, start them off as early as you can. Just that nice kind of four seam grip. So if they can try to have them get 3 fingers on top, they might have to spread them out a little bit because again, their hands are a little bit smaller. Kind of have that pinky off on the side just as kind of like a little guide, almost like when you shoot the basketball, your one hand's just kind of a guide and you throw it up, and then have that thumb underneath and really try to get them to feel kind of pushing with those 3 fingers to get that nice spin on the ball coming off where we get a nice four seam spin, as opposed to cutting the ball off and getting that circle. So when you're playing catch with them or when you're watching them play catch, if you're seeing those balls come off and they have that that slider spin to them, where they're spinning this way as they're going towards the target. Maybe, just stop them real quick. Say, hey, how are you holding the ball? And maybe try to fix and tell them, really try to like reach out there and feel like you're trying to try to touch your partner with your 3 fingers and feel that seam roll off, so you get that nice 4-seam spin. But again, this is something where I just have them practice. They can just hold it in their hand here and just practice feeling that grip. All right, now kind of rotate it around. All right, feel that grip. All right, I got it again. Rotate around. I'm not really looking at the ball here. All right, feel my seams. There's my grip. And they can start with the bare hand, and then they can move to the glove. Because ultimately, what we'd like is when they're feeling that ground ball, they can feel it, bring it to the chest. As they're doing that transition, they can kind of find that seam grip. Do their arm break, and now they're coming up, and then we're again really feeling that spin off the ball. And, hopefully we'll get that spin and that nice pronation as they do their follow through, as opposed to kind of cutting the ball this way, where now they're getting that slider spin. So again, just something really easy to do. They can work on this sitting on the couch. But again, something for them to really be cognizant of when they're playing catch. Take your time, make sure you get the right grip, and really get that good feel for it. So you're throwing that nice straight 4-seam, as opposed to getting a spin on a ball where now your ball's going to be cutting and diving when you're throwing it to your partner, your first baseman.